Welcome to Under the Fig Tree podcast. In today's episode, hosts Reverend Micah Glenn and Reverend Dr. Ben Haupt talk theology and life as they meditate under the fig tree.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Under the Fig Tree podcast. I am your host, Reverend Micah Glenn, the Director of Recruitment here at Concordia Seminary in St. Louis, joined by Mrs. Kati Gaschler, the newly temporary, perhaps permanent co-host,
Permanently
joint
temporary.
host, other host, main host of
Better host.
the podcast. I'm sure there are many adjectives we could use.
We'll put a poll out.
There
We'll
we
see
go.
what people say.
Yeah, we should. We have guests on the podcast today, seminarian Craig Wenzlick and his wonderful wife, Angela Wenzlick. I could have probably said you guys together. I don't see. Here's the thing: if you've, when Ben was here, I would always have a different way of introducing him, either like saying his name, some kind of
You
adjective.
guessed his middle name. You haven't tried to guess mine.
I need a letter.
No.
See, and that then it's impossible.
It'll give it away immediately.
It's Anne. Is it?
Yes.
Bang! Look at that. I'm good at this, guys. I do this professionally. That's why I'm the director of recruitment.
Do me next.
There you
What's
go.
mine? What's mine?
Well, see, but
Anne.
without a
Yes.
without a middle
Hold it in.
initial, it's
Oh, my.
almost impossible, unless you give me something like if I give you But and also Catherine Ann.
It just makes sense.
sounds
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here.
How are you both doing? And this is your first year.
This is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We've been also. I started here in March of 2020, and probably in the summer or fall of 2021 is when we met over Zoom.
Yes. Yep.
And so my first year of the director of recruitment was COVID, and so a lot of
Sounds fun.
not active recruiting, but kind of planning and trying to retool things. And then there was a time when we were rebuilding our department a little bit, and Craig is actually one of the first people that I had a very active role in recruiting, a small stint of being his admissions officer, which I'm glad that, I'm sure you're glad that changed. Well, anyway. And so, yeah, there was a season where I had to do both to some extent, but I wasn't. I'm just not an admissions officer, but that's all right.
I don't know if we knew any better.
We didn't know any better. No.
He's here anyway.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It worked.
it worked. There you go. Yeah. So how is life? How are things going now that you're a seasoned student? And
Oh,
yeah.
wow. It's been a trip.
Sure.
I was accepted in March of 22.
Yeah.
And so then when we came to visit over Reformation Sunday of 2021, I was telling everyone Halloween, and I was told that I should start to learn that Reformation is more important than Halloween at that time. So I'm working on that.
Arguably.
And arguably, yes.
I'm a Halloween fan.
Yeah,
But,
I was gonna say if you ask my kids, yeah.
but anyway.
Yeah, and so we went with the deferred option.
Mm-hmm.
And so then obviously we had a year-ish to get ready to come out here, and then now we're here. And we started off with summer Greek, and it wasn't bad.
Sure.
We've learned a lot about us in the last 10 months. I learned that I can only handle one thing at a time. So summer Greek was great because you got up at 8, class at 8.
Yep.
You're done at, what was it, noon?
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the day was Greek, homework, study, and go to bed, do it the next day for 10 weeks,
10 weeks.
And
I did it.
that was easy. The content was hard, but, the routine was pretty good. Then the fall semester started, and whoa, it was everything times 6, because though you have your labs, you have to be there and
Mm-hmm.
active, and now we're changing things to have credit with that. So Where I think right now, they're kind of a pass fail. Showing up, you win. And so you still have to be there, but it's just time out of your day, things you have to plan for, you don't want to miss, and it's a lot to go on. That first week of the fall was a lot, and I realized really quick that it had been a couple decades since I'd been in a college classroom.
Sure.
Whew. So so then you get out of that, go to Winterim, and one class for 2 weeks. Okay, I can do this again. That was kind of my jam. And then now in the spring, and thankfully hasn't been so much of a change. It's pretty, it's a lot easier than what the fall was. And I think it's just because going through the fall, got through that just fine.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Coming from the work, professional world, going into school again was a little bit of an adjustment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely seemed to kind of slow down a little bit.
Well, and actually that's one reason why I left the corporate world, especially that was kind of that was the straw that broke my back. I was laid off in 2020, and right before her birthday. That was fun. And I say that sarcastically, but I needed a break. I had been at the same company for almost 14 years, but I had actually gotten into a role I was really excited about. I was a Scrum Master, and for the fellow engineers, shout out to the Scrum Masters of the world. And that role is a servant leader on a team. They shepherd a team towards a common goal, no authority at all. I'm not their manager, but I'm there to build trust and rapport and all that fun stuff that a pastor gets, to do and go through as well. And I'd gotten so after getting laid off, I had some weird experiences. I was hired on by a company about a month later, which was awesome. And then they didn't hire me because the reason they were going to hire me fell through. and so that sent me back because I waited a month of, committed to them, didn't do any job searching. So that really set me back. And now we're looking at Thanksgiving and Christmas and not having any leads of any sort. It was really, there were a lot of jobs out there, but nobody was interviewing. A lot of openings, but no interviews. And so I ended up getting hired at the end of the year, and I was working with a friend of mine. We were doing engineering stuff. The job title didn't sound very engineering-like, or Scrum Master-like. But I trusted my friend. I went and did it, and at first it was everything I was looking for. But I think the job molded very quickly into something I was not expecting. I thought I would be a Scrum Master most of the time and kind of have everything else a little bit of the time. Yeah. It was the other way around. I was a Scrum Master just a little bit of the time, and I was product owner, tester, customer relations, and I couldn't do it. I think I was starting out barely not 8 hours, and then quickly was going to 10-hour days, then 12, and then 15. And I think the moment it really hit was when I was getting up. I was getting up at 6, going to bed at 9, and then setting the alarm for 1 a.m. to go push a couple of buttons, go back to bed, and wake up at 6 and do it all over again. So then I was like, I'm so, and this was during COVID, and Colorado was a little more locked down than everywhere else. And so I'm working from home. I hardly saw her, and I'm in my room all day, and I just, what can I do that's in the church more and does shepherding and service and supporting people, and I can kind of do them both. And she just kind of gave me the look she's giving me here, like, you know it. Sure. And we were talking to some pastors. Actually, it was about the COVID vaccine. That was whether or not we should. I was being kind of ordered to get it for work if I wanted to keep my job. So, for travel purposes.
I see. Sure.
Traveling was going to be happening, and so I'm like, we was talking to pastors about the Christian view of that. That's probably a whole other conversation for another time.
Not on this podcast. No. Especially we've moved past that.
Yeah, we're beyond that. And when I got done talking to the second pastor, we were kind of nonverbal communication on the phone, and she's like, yeah, go ahead and ask him, what thought about the seminary. And he just said, yeah, it's like, I think you should just apply and just follow the path. And at any point you feel like this is not a good idea, then, just jump off the path. And so at every checkpoint, it was are we good? Are we good? Are we good? And yeah, so eventually we applied, and here we are. So, yeah.
Sure. Well, Craig, you've answered one of our questions of what was your... No, don't... I mean...
I'm efficient. That's what a Scrum Master is, efficient.
Your story of how you got there. And so, so for our listeners, you can see how your transition from corporate engineering into thought process of something different, talking to people, and, that kind of local pastoral influence on getting you here. But I want to take one step back for a second, and Angela, because, again, something we've been trying to focus recently on the podcast, because we have professors, that type of experience. We have students, what's your experience? But Angela, you also have experience of how you got here and the transition since being here. So if you don't mind, take us a step back and give us your perspective of from the moment that we all Zoomed together and we had these conversations through the application process to moving here and now living here and being here.
Yeah, it had this piece about it. I'm a rostered Lutheran school teacher, so being in the church and being involved in church work I know the satisfaction of being able to pray, and we definitely have the struggles and all of that, but it just knowing that, being able to just openly profess Jesus and praying and all of that has been great. So I hopefully was able to, be able to, encourage Craig in that, and knowing that, if the Holy Spirit is putting this on your heart, let's check it out.
Yeah.
Let's see what, where if he's leading us, to change, a major life change.
Yeah.
And I had two sisters and families that lived in Colorado, very close to us. His sister and family are very, within just a couple of hours. So it was a major decision to leave family, and but we just kept praying about it and kept, just depending on the Holy Spirit to just help us to keep moving along, and visiting with you on Zoom, and just throughout all of it, just feeling that piece that I really feel this is what God is calling us to do. And since moving here, it's been some struggle, downsizing from a house to an apartment.
Sure.
Yeah. figuring all that out, and then I went back into kind of full-time work. I was substitute teaching before we moved out here, and just to kind of help out with some of the, daily expenses, things like that. I pursued some of the Lutheran schools out here, and which has been wonderful. It's amazing to hear the Lutheran schools out here and how willing and open they are to have, us wives, teach in the schools, knowing that we're only going to be here for a couple of years. But so I've been able to work at Christ Community Lutheran School and helping out with the little early childhood program, and so that's been a lot of fun, and kind of rebalancing I love housework. I love cooking and cleaning and all of that, and Craig has stepped up to help with some of that, but it's kind of my therapy. So that being taken away from me a little bit, being kind of back full-time working was a little bit of a kind of that first semester, like with him with his classes, it was an adjustment for me to kind of get back into full-time working and kind of rebalancing that, and kind of ever since the turn of the calendar, it's kind of gotten into a good routine, and
good.
Yeah.
I want to take it farther back because you and I have a connection.
Yes, we do. Yes,
so
we do.
Talk about where you grew up, and then take it through there.
Yeah. All right.
Did
So
you know this?
Nope.
Okay.
So I'm from Western Nebraska,
Oh,
little town of Imperial.
got it. Yep.
If you know where McCook and Ogallala are.
I know where Imperial is. I when I studied at Westfield House, a classmate of mine did his vicarage there.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which one?
His name is Jacob Herkamp.
Oh, the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, we know him.
So this would have been like 14, 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sure your mom knows.
Yeah,
because-
my mom was very close to the vicars.
Well,
out there.
in a place like Imperial, Nebraska, they know every vicar
Yeah.
that's ever passed through
Yep.
there.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I grew up. That's my church my whole life, Zion Lutheran, and let's see, we had Pastor Gary Whirling was there to start with, and Pastor Leroy Prawley, and we went through a few other ones, and then Pastor David Kale. Is he the one that you might know?
Yeah. So that's
then-
where Paul grew up.
Right.
And that's where
Yeah.
Paul grew up. And I know your in-laws, parents, better. Tom and my dad worked a lot together as an agronomist
Yep.
to a farmer. So my dad and brother farm today. My grandfather started the farm, and my dad and brother are taking it over and keeping it going.
Sure.
Cattle, crops, that sort of thing. And yeah, that's where I'm from. And I was strongly encouraged not to do farming, and I really didn't argue much about it. So I went off to Concordia Seward, and the correct Concordia. And I know that's going to draw some comments. And
We can just end the episode now.
go Dogs. And I graduated there with a computer science and math degree, and no church work of any sort. And then I've been around. I went to Wichita, Kansas for a few years, and I was an IT help desk kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I lived down the street from an engineering company, and I always wanted to work there. So I went and got my MBA, and that's where the one class for like 6 to 8 weeks really kind of resonates with me, because
Sure.
I'm kind of used to that one thing at a time. And so then eventually I got transferred out to the Denver area in 2007, met her in 2008, and the rest is history. We were in Denver, the northern Denver area, for the longest time there, and that's where we came from. And yeah, I've worked for a rocket company. That's probably the coolest thing I can say, and I get a kick out of that. So yes, I worked for United Launch Alliance was my company. They launched a Vulcan rocket here recently, so I got up at 1 a.m. to watch it, and then promptly went back to bed. It's really cool to watch a rocket that you've helped with. So
I bet.
I used to make rockets for 4-H in Imperial forever, and I think I still have them somewhere. Or my mom does. I don't know who has them, but yeah, that's all. Yeah, farm kid, suburban stuff, science, that kind of things, kind of my history. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul was on campus like the start of the school year, and he's like, I think I know that
And
guy.
I said the same.
And
Well,
then
and
you
And I
you
think
approached me and you were like, "Is your last name Gaschler?" I'm like, "Yes." It's just wild.
I'm trying to think. His sister's the oldest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's a classmate of my younger brother, which that's kind of what's interesting. When we were given guidance, I don't remember by who. I want to say, it might have been Pastor Kale said to listen to this podcast as I was deliberating over coming to here, not because your content was geared toward those. I mean, it is towards coming into the profession. And so I was listening to I think you had just done your first season, or were kind of towards the end of it.
Sure. Yeah, we've I like to say we've grown as podcasters.
Oh.
It's gone through different, I don't want to say different stages, but I mean, it was just Ben and I on Zoom, and we'd have guests on Zoom, but yeah, neither one of us had ever podcasted before, so it had a different structure and a slightly different attitude. Not to say that we still have theological conversations, but I would say like the the attraction was like, come see what you'll learn about if you become a student. But I don't want to say we're replicating, but like, there are theologically focused podcast that the seminary produces. So by all means, go to scholar.csl.edu and check out all of our podcasts. But towards the end of one of our seasons, and we don't necessarily have seasons anymore, we're hopefully just
Gonna
nonstop. That's the goal, which requires a lot of work. And Kati graciously works around my schedule, which is atrocious. But it's much easier to podcast with Kati than with both Ben and I, because we both have horrible schedules. So God bless Kati. But I mean, I don't know if we've said this on the podcast before, but it's weird for me because now students have started coming to campus, and they'll see us during orientation, and there's like Ben and Micah, the Under the Fig Tree guys, and it's like, that is exactly why we started the podcast, and I'm very grateful that God is using the podcast that way. But it's still weird. But then you get an opportunity to ask people, okay, so like which episodes have been most beneficial? And our professors, faculty members, staff members, they love those episodes. But it's always the student episodes where they get to hear somebody else's discernment process recently of what they did and how they thought and how they prayed and who they talked to that they have pointed out. And so, we try to be, good podcasters and listen to our audience and what they like and what has the most impact.
And I think your honesty about the struggle,
I think that'll hopefully speak to some, because you don't want to come on here and say, oh, it's great here, nothing bad ever happens, because no one's going to believe you.
Well, and so we didn't ask our guest that before, and then we had President Egger kind of towards the beginning of his presidency of the seminary. And I think it was probably Ben, just out of, because we don't have a script. Now we have kind of a set of questions we typically ask. But he asked President Egger, he's like, well, what led you to become a pastor? And then listening to President Egger's story, because, I mean, Ben and I had done that story on one of our first episodes together. But then I was like, well, as we were talking about, well, what do we want to do next? It's like, that's kind of the question. Why did you decide to do this and pursue this? And so, here we are asking you those questions. And again, and Angela, I appreciate not only you taking the time out of your day to come and record with us, but also it's one of those things where every once in a while there will be somebody who's thinking about this. And then, you have this conversation and you ask them, who are you, where you're from, just trying to get to know you a little bit. And what does your wife think? And every once in a while, a guy will say, well, I haven't talked to my wife yet. I'm like, well, before you call your pastor, call your wife. And then, or they'll be like, well, she's not really on board, but maybe I could. It's a genuine question where guys are like, well, what if I come and study? My wife doesn't want to move. And I come study, she stays there. And the answer is absolutely not. Yeah. I can't think of an exception where we would think that's okay. I mean, because if you are married and becoming a pastor, being a husband really supersedes being a pastor as far as vocations in the world. And by really, I mean it absolutely does. Yeah. If you can't be a good husband and father, you can't be a good pastor. It's just not possible. But you need Angela, not for financial support.
Although I'm sure that's nice.
Yeah, but that's part of it. But even if it didn't work, you need Angela here because there's no way you could do this without her.
Oh, yeah.
She is going to be such a major critical part of your ministry. And I'm not talking about the pastor's wife's role in a congregation. You all should decide that together with your congregation. But just, again, to be a good pastor, you're such a critical point to this. All that to say is from inception, and that's why having pastors' wives on, and it took a pastor's wife to say, well, you guys have done all these episodes. Why don't you do it this way? And it's like, well, Kati, that's why you're the new co-host. So, I say we decided to have couples on the podcast. Kati made that suggestion. But they'll edit that part out.
Don't do it.
Wise woman.
Don't.
Yeah.
You can edit the burps out, but you can't edit that out.
What burps? Did that make the final cut? Okay. All right. Then we're not talking about anything else. Yeah.
Guys, get ready for the blooper episode. It's coming.
Oh my.
Anything, Katie?
There was something, but it left.
I talked too much.
Yes.
Sorry. Not sorry.
It wasn't me, just for the record.
Yeah.
But, well then, we talked about your story of how you got here, and you talked a little bit about classes, but just for a moment, what's been your favorite part about being here? And by here, you're here in the seminary, you have RFE, you're in St. Louis, you're in the Midwest. Colorado isn't the Midwest. It's not. It's the mountains. No. Yeah. So what is life here now and beyond work, beyond you can include seminary life. What is life like now and how are you enjoying it?
It's nice. I mean, I will bring in the seminary because one of the things that was kind of making me a little nervous about coming here was, okay, what about the wives? You know, what about the women? You know, are there things? And we had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Nafsker and Katie and his wife.
Both classmates of mine.
Yes.
Oh, sure. Yeah, look at that.
Anyways, and sit down with them for lunch when we came out here to visit, and which was wonderful to get her perspective. And she helped. I mean, she's I don't know what her official title is. I can't remember off the top of my head, but she, is in charge of the, the Seminary Women's Association and all of that. So being involved in and building relationships with some of the women and the couples that we've met has really been wonderful because I'm really close with my family, and then to leave that all and try to form new friendships with people that we don't know. It's been wonderful to build those relationships, and so that's something that I've really enjoyed.
Sure.
Being here. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could say almost the same thing. I mean, if I learned anything, I mentioned before that I've learned a lot about myself since COVID and through the SEM, and one of the things we learned about me is I need to be around people. I mean, Angela, when I left that job where I was doing so many things, I was wearing so many hats, and I wasn't seeing anyone. And I left for the rocket company because they forced me to come into the office, even though it was an hour one way. I drove all across Denver for 18 months, and it was worth it to be around people. And how much more is that here? To be around people. It is. I've kind of gotten my little phrase now when I'm late for something. I just said I was working on my pastoral formation, and meaning I was talking to someone. It's
they can't argue with that.
I mean, they can't. It's the most important thing here. Is the formation, and so yeah, but yet I do feel bad when I have to be somewhere because it's like I don't want to stop talking. I'd much rather be right here than over there.
Sure.
So yeah, the community is nice. The cookouts in the summer were wonderful. Got to meet a lot of people that way. Being an RAR, the alternate route, which I'm sure we'll talk more about here or not. I don't know. Yeah. I mean there's not many of us, and so I was directed to the Tims, the two RARs ahead of me, and so I got to know them, and then through them know others. And it's kind of interesting here. You really get close to your Summer Greek brothers, and they're very upset at me for not signing up for Summer Hebrew because that's part of the alternate path is to not do Summer Hebrew. So I can't decide if they really are going to miss me or they really want me to suffer with them. So I'm not.
Misery loves company.
That's what I'm kind of going for. But yeah, so I'll be on summer break at that time.
Good for you. I was I mean, Hebrew wouldn't hurt.
No, it wouldn't hurt.
You chose a particular
That's
path
right.
that doesn't require it. So
Yeah.
You don't. Summer break is perfectly fine.
Yeah, it's a nice community here, and I will say that there have been times, whether I've had to remind myself or my lovely wife reminds me that I'm old enough to be someone's parent out here, that but I don't feel like that. That's what's kind of fun. I really don't. The intramurals and that, I'm able to well, I feel like I'm trying to keep up. Now, if someone was videoing, it probably would look like I'm the one dog in it. But I do know the next day I can barely move. But outside from all that, it's an active environment. I feel invigorated, and I mean, I feel like I'm, a teenager back at Concordia, Nebraska. So it's a good. I like that whole era around campus here.
Nice. Angela, could you talk about some of the events and stuff that the wives do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, especially in the fall time, they have classes for each of the, so first year, second year, and then the fourth year when they come back from their vicarage. And those are, we have just all the first year wives and women on the seminary. So we have deaconesses that have attended a book study, Bible study that Renee Gibbs led, and it was just, and then some of the professors' wives were there to help lead some of the small groups. So they have those classes in the fall, and then we had a Saturday retreat that we did here on campus, just a fun Bible study and get together. And we've had potlucks that they've put together. They just recently had a chocolate tasting night.
I have heard about this.
I didn't get to go, and I'm bummed, but just lots of fun things like that too that they put on. They had a Galentine paint and sip
nice.
Night, and so yeah, lots of just fun time to interact with the other women on the seminary and on the campus, and build those relationships too. So kind of,
nice.
I won't say commiserate, but just kind of, discuss the hardships and the joys of that we're all kind of going through. And then it's been fun too, since after the individual year class Bible study, book study classes, being able to have those activities that we all can come to, and hearing from the wives that have come back from vicarage, and then those that are like in the second year getting ready to go onto their vicarage, and just gaining wisdom from them too has been great.
Nice. Yeah. Do you want to talk about what the RAR is?
Yeah, we love acronyms.
We do.
At the seminary. We have acronyms for everything. And so we have, for pastoral formation, we have 2 different residential programs. It's the traditional one, the Master of Divinity, which is typically a 4-year program that almost all of our residential pastoral formation students go through. But there is a residential alternate route program that has some stipulations, a few additional requirements that you have to fulfill in order to be in. I mean, one is age. So I mean, if you're not one of the elderly guys, I'm just messing with you. You have to be 35 to enter into that program, and so which is
he is
at least 35, and you can fill in the numbers after that.
36. Yeah. No.
Oh, wow.
I was like, are you? And then, in the moment, I was like, I didn't want to say, there's no way.
But you thought it.
We just went through this with the Hamptons, and I set myself up. You don't have to say
that was good.
Yeah. Which is the path that you chose. And so, just tell us what you think about the residential alternate route program, and if we have to correct anything for somebody, we will.
All right.
It's all in our the seminary manual, the requirements and everything like that. Anyway.
Yeah, and I might have made things harder for myself because I'm a very inquisitive person and I'm a planner.
Sure.
I like to know how it ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I asked anybody I could find, and I got different answers every time. So it helps to know the right person to ask in the end. When answering the call was during COVID, and I really wanted to be out there. I mean, if I could have had a degree in a month, I would have been all over that. I probably would have totally not enjoyed that. That would have been insanely intensive. and thankfully so that there's not something like that. That this really is it's a process. There's time involved. You need to experience these seasons. There's I'm getting a shorter experience, and I know I'm going to miss some things, but it's because of my life experience I can do this. So yeah, being over 35, I was an elder for over 10 years in my congregations. I was a president of congregation at one point. Our congregation had a leadership committee, and so I was on that in various roles for years. I was the tech guy. I was on a praise team. The Senate really likes it when you're a reader, and I thought that was funny because to get up and read the readings on Sunday didn't seem like that big of a deal to me. But
it is a skill.
It is for a lot of people. It can freak you out, and that's so. And you can't obviously you need to be in front of people as a pastor. So, so all those things I was asked and on the application, and so yeah, I mean all those things serving in your church, they want to see that you're involved, and yeah, I don't get to come back for the 4th year. I'm here for 2 years. I'm taking winterim, I'm taking summer classes, I'm cramming as much in as I can, and then when I think it's in, well, I don't remember the day exactly, I think May 15th, 2025, whatever, I don't know, that catalog has it. That's when I will walk.
Oh, commencement, okay.
Yeah, sorry, well, I'll be part of call day too, I guess.
Well, but that'll be in April.
Yeah. Yeah, so then in May I'm done here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with my classes, and I think actually though I have one more class after graduation. I'm here for a couple of weeks, and then I get sent off to my vicarage, which becomes my call after being there a year. And
Commonly,
yeah. Right, and there's still variations in that. I think one of the things that again, efficiency and accomplishing things, when you in the RER program, there is a Master's of Arts in Theology, I think it is. You can. And, just enroll in that master's program here and choose a school and go through that. So I'm learning about that right now. I think that's coming up soon.
Actually, you don't have to do it.
No, you don't have to. No, it's an option.
Yeah.
It's an option, yeah. It's an option.
I was testing you.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, so that's... And for me, I wanted to be out being a pastor as soon as I wanted to. As soon as I know what I want to do, I want to get there as soon as I can. So, if there was no alternate route option, I'd be here 4 years just like everyone else. So I see the value in being here and the experience and what I'm learning. I will say I am looking forward to summer vacation, considering we just are having the emails with the registrar about our classes for the summer and fall, and
right.
I have a lot coming up, so I'm looking forward to a break. And but that's the point, you get as many of these classes in, and I get to. It's kind of sad because like I mentioned the kind of the brotherhood we have with your summer Greek brothers, and so now I'm starting to, when I do my winter and when I do these summer classes, I'm not with them. I'm with maybe the 3rd year folks coming back from vicarage, or the 4th year guys or something. I get to meet. I'm in a class with a bunch of people I don't know. Sure. They don't know me, so. But the person that I am, I like that. I'm not shy. I think at one point I took the Myers-Briggs, and I'm like one tick towards being an extrovert. And I think now I'm probably way more extrovert than I've ever been. But I guess that bodes well for the job. So.
I don't know what it divides into. There are a lot of introverted pastors, which is perfectly okay, but you have to be able to function like an extrovert. Yeah. To care for people. You can't just hold yourself up in your office. So if you're a listener, again, the most common route residentially, and even overall, is the Master of Divinity traditional route. Well, let me say something first. Routes to ordination aren't determined by the seminary, so if you're listening and you have an idea of a different way, there's a process for that. Again, not on this podcast. You can research it all you want, but emailing me and telling me your wild ideas goes nowhere. And I usually delete those emails because I'm not the guy.
There's nothing you can do. And that's why there's an age requirement, and it's not just okay, you're over 35, so now you can do the residential alternate route. You talked about leadership experience that you had in your congregation, as an elder, and all these different things of being in front of your congregation. And so essentially, and I don't know when the residential alternate route was created, but it's saying, well, here's a congregational leader who's actively participated in the life of a congregation that goes in a way that goes towards parts of the formation process. And so it's kind of giving you some life experience credit for that, by taking some of the classes off the program. Again, you can get an additional master's degree and a Master of Arts in Theology, should you want to, but it's not required. And then because of that, so it's, and there are other ways where people can defer their vicarages, and maybe all have a different student on. So like if you were a DCE, but you're not doing the RAR program, you're doing the MDiv program, because you've already been in a congregational setting. The whole idea of doing your vicarage your third year and coming back for your fourth year is that you have an opportunity to come back and, reflect upon being away from the seminary for a year. So it's a very important year. But yeah, you said a deferred vicarage, and so 2 years of classes, you have a vicarage. And then again, very commonly, your vicarage will convert to your first call. It's not a guarantee, but yeah, nothing's really guaranteed, which I'm sure you love, Craig, based upon the conversation.
You're stressing out.
Now you got me worried.
Oh, great.
Listen, the Holy Spirit works in the way in which He wills, and you never know. But we can use words like commonly, but not guaranteed, which I think is a healthy. It's one of those things where, because this is another conversation, which again you can lean a particular way, but you have to have an openness to what if. Just because again, there are guys that want everything to go a particular way from beginning to end, and they're again it's not even just a matter of not being able to guarantee it, but it's just not how we operate in the church. You don't get to choose every aspect of not only your formation as to become a pastor, but even in the future. Where you're going to be called, well, again, up to the Holy Spirit mediated through a congregation. All these things matter. But yeah, no, it's good. And yeah, I don't, have we had another RAR student on recently?
I don't think so.
There's only a couple around.
Yeah.
And you made a good point there. One of the things that I've had to struggle with as I look ahead is, in the corporate world, if I'm engineer today, well then what's next? Well, that's lead engineer,
sure,
staff engineer, principal engineer, manager, senior manager, directors. When you're in corporate America for over a decade or better, your goal is to go up, mm-hmm. and to put more digits in your salary. And you gotta, I think if I were to do the MDiv, because at this point I have flexibility. I can change my mind right now if I want to, which is wonderful. It takes a lot of pressure off, because like you said, nothing's guaranteed, and in the back of my mind, I'm very aware of that. And so it's nice to have that just flexibility, knowing that it's there. But I, as a person, to break down that in your mind that, hey, I was in control, except for getting laid off, obviously, which that kind of was a wake up call. Hey, you're not in charge of things here. You're not in control. But I'm used to having a say. I'm used to having control. I'm used to making that determination, and now I'm not.
Sure.
If anything, it's, do I say yes or no to that? And then roll the dice for the next one, so to speak. So there's a lot of this that's out of my hands, and that's a big adjustment for someone who's beyond age 35 and in a different season of their life. And it can be intimidating. And I think you really have to take a step back and go, I have to be okay with this.
Yeah.
This is really, it's good that I just sit back and enjoy the ride. This is where I'm at, and tomorrow I'm still here. Maybe the next week I am, however this goes. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Angela, how does all that make you feel?
I I'm along for the ride. Just trusting the Holy Spirit to guide us through, and I know that He will.
Yeah. All right. It is one of these things that where again, your first call is a selection process with the Council of Presidents, and they don't do it willy-nilly. It's a very discerning, deliberative process. Everybody wants everybody coming out of the seminary, even beyond your first call, to do well. You're not sent somewhere to fail. But then after the seminary and after your first call, there's a little more freedom. Where congregations will say, hey, you came up on our call list, and are you open to this or are you open to that? And then maybe they extend a call, and then you have to pray, and then you do get a little more choice. So it's not just once you become a pastor, we just give you a call. All right, it's time to move on. Some church bodies do that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that we don't.
I am too.
Sure.
You just got here.
I know. Yeah. Yep. We are hopefully here to stay.
Sure.
But enough about me.
Okay. Then, if you don't have any other questions,
No.
we will then move on to our favorite, the most important part of the podcast, right for the picking or leave it on the tree,
Oh, I've heard of this.
where we will ask you for the secrets of life. No, we'll just ask a bunch of, we'll just
It's
bring up
42.
a
It's
bunch
42.
of, yeah.
Secret of life.
Got it. I understand exactly what you mean by that as well.
Wow.
We'll give you random topics, subjects, and if you like it, it's right for the picking. If you don't like it, leave it on the tree, and feel free to justify yourself. Because every once in a while, I'm not as, Ben would bring up ones that, yeah.
Well, I contributed a couple.
Did you?
Yeah. And you gave me a shout out. That was
Well, there we go.
embarrassing. I was in the car. We were in the car driving. That was hilarious. I'm trying to think where we were coming back from, but that was I do remember that.
And I'll be honest, I have 100% been lacking on creating new ones, but
I have too, but at least I don't repeat the same one every episode.
when I have a long list, and then as I go through it, I was like, that's just not.
It's just not
I don't
that
know
vibe.
why I thought that was interesting, but it's not today. But I've been doing this, and I should have been doing this in the entire history of the show.
Leave it on the tree.
And it's right for the pick. And the most important one, the most important question, right for the pick and leave it on the tree. Pineapple on pizza.
Leave it on the tree.
Okay, now it's right for the picking. But here's what I'm gonna do, because you keep saying this. I
Yeah.
want someone out there to Uber Eats a pizza to Micah, 801 Seminary Place,
Mhm.
St. Louis, Missouri.
Pineapple?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll happily give the pizza away and document it. Yep.
Leave it
I
on
I
See
know
what
what
happens.
it's gonna taste like. The restaurant won't change the opinion. It's not like the
No.
quality of pineapple or the quality of pizza. It's the combination of ingredients that just don't go.
And I've thought about this ever since you brought it up, and I'm thinking, well, okay, what about the circles versus the chunks versus just diced up? And I don't want it any way.
because again, it's not even just a combination of the flavors, but it's how it gets. It's so weird. And I'm like, and you're just talking about. Anyway, there's nothing right about it.
Sure.
There's nothing right about it. Yeah.
All right, well, I'm gonna reuse one
Okay.
for a very good reason.
Here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Because he's from Nebraska. Right for the picking or leave it on the tree. Cinnamon rolls and chili as a meal. And then I will have follow-up questions.
Sure. Well, it's right for the picking only because I don't like combine the foods. It makes sense that they go together, and you could even swap out the cinnamon roll with cornbread.
That makes more sense.
That- way
but,
more sense,
but I
yeah.
don't combine the two. You know, some people will like break up the cornbread, put in chili, or the cinnamon roll chili separate. They complement each other well.
So
it's right
our-
for the picking.
Our office has been talking about this ever since we had it. Oh, Yeah, okay, you go, and then I have follow-up questions.
Combined or separate? I mean,
Well, that's
is that,
part of the follow-up.
yeah, I mean, I would eat a cinnamon roll separate from chili, but I would leave it on the tree.
As a dish, like a together, you serve it like
Yeah, so
this.
not like cinnamon roll for breakfast and then chili
Oh,
for
yeah,
lunch.
no.
In one meal.
Yeah,
In one
no,
meal.
Yeah,
I
okay.
would say leave it on the tree.
Okay, so we've been talking about this since we brought it up on a podcast last time. And my follow-up question is, yeah, do you dip it? And that's a no. And then is there icing on the cinnamon roll?
Yes.
Okay.
Or caramel.
Caramel.
So I don't know what I said last time.
Of course, that's a caramel roll, I guess.
But regardless of what I said last time, I'm gonna leave this on the tree.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pass. Like if I had chili, and then there was like a cinnamon roll for dessert. But like if you brought if I ordered chili, and you brought the bowl of chili and a cinnamon roll together,
You'd have some questions.
yeah, I might take the cinnamon roll home and eat it for breakfast the next day.
Yeah.
To make a mental break between the two. And I mean, I've had chili. I'll even, when I make chili, I don't want it to be like a forward note, but I'll sprinkle a little cinnamon in chili because it does, like just like cumin, it adds a little something to the chili. But I don't want to taste the cinnamon in the chili. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
You just said cumin?
What do you, cumin?
Cumin.
Sorry. Cumin. All right.
Right, well,
Do you say turmeric or turmeric?
now I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly. It's turmeric. Anyway, right.
I'd say turmeric.
But it has an R. Look it up. It's turmeric.
Turmeric.
Yeah,
Turmeric.
that's all right. It's okay.
That one.
Yeah, just like it's cumin, not cumin. Anyway, here we go. Right for the pick and leave on the tree.
Grammar.
Taking a cruise.
Ripe for the picking.
You both really lit up at
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
Where are we going?
I was about to say, it sounds like this summer you guys are going somewhere.
Oh, man. Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on two, both Caribbean. I went once with family, with my parents and stuff when I was in college, and just that was awesome. And then we went for our fifth wedding anniversary,
Sure.
I believe, and we did another Caribbean cruise. He's always wanted to do an Alaskan cruise. And I thought, well, for the first time we do a cruise, I'd like to go someplace warm because I'm always freezing cold.
Fair.
But now that we've gone together on a Caribbean cruise somewhere warm, I would love to go to Alaska.
I've heard nothing bad about Alaskan cruises. Anybody you ever talked to, they loved it. And
Yeah.
one of my bosses over there, she said, yeah, on our Alaskan cruise, we looked over the bow and we saw a glacier that had a dead whale on it being eaten by a bear, and there was a moose in the background with an eagle flying over. I'm just, anything else? And if he would have said, Denali was in the background, I would have lost my mind, But after going down the Caribbean, getting off the boat after like a day or two of being on the boat and then to go in the water was really important for my sanity.
Sure.
So I don't know now if Alaska, I'm not going to turn down an Alaskan cruise by any means, but I think I'm more apt to go on the Caribbean cruise now than I would Alaskan.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's leave it on the tree.
Okay.
Katie doesn't like fun, warm weather, the beach.
That's why you like,
False.
so you like St. Louis.
I don't want to be in a contained
That's fair.
Oh.
That's
Thing.
100%.
Yeah.
with that many
fair.
people.
Uh-huh.
It
I
is.
think.
It is 100%.
So, yeah.
It's right for me. We did a honeymoon cruise. We almost went last summer, but in the process of planning a vacation, we looked at cruises, and then we're like, oh, well, the kids, it'd be fun to do a Disney cruise. And we looked at a Disney cruise for the length that we wanted to go on vacation, and we're like, maybe not a Disney cruise until, maybe not ever, honestly. But then, and then it went from cruise to like, well, if we just went to Disney instead of a cruise, it's about the same price. That's not actually true.
Oh.
Well, the cost of the hotel and the tickets to Disney were about the same price as a cruise, but that's not the totality of the trip.
But no regrets at all. Disney was the right choice for us and our kids. Yeah. A Disney cruise would have been better, but that was anyway. That was crazy. But yeah, all right, cool. Now we're gonna do a team trip on a cruise and see
Let's do
what
it.
decision you make.
Yeah.
We gotta do it before Ben comes back when I'm still making the decisions.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's get on that. Okay. Right for the picking or leave it on the tree, geocaching. Caching?
It is caching.
Caching?
For a second, I had to
Caching?
think
I
about
don't
what you
know
were
how to
saying.
say
It's
it.
caching.
Okay. Do you,
I don't know what that is. So
Oh.
I know what
sorry.
geo is. I know what caching is.
so it's like you have an app and there's like little locations and you can go to that location and find a cache. And
I think there's one on our campus, if I'm not mistaken.
people will leave stuff in it. It's a hobby that people do that, I don't know. So does it sound fun?
It sounds intriguing. I don't know. What do you think?
Huh.
It's like Pokemon Go.
but real.
Exactly.
So you actually find.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I've never done
It's
it.
a legitimate thing that people do, yeah.
I've never done it, but it sounds fun, so I would say right for the
I
beginning.
can hear all my
But you
classmates laughing at me for not knowing now. what this is.
But I would like to, and if there's one on campus, I'm gonna try it.
I don't know how long they stay in a particular place.
Yeah, like someone will just
But-
like leave a little like tchotchke or a note or something. I think that's the
Yeah.
idea, and then the next person leaves something else.
Right.
So
I'm gonna say leave it on the tree only because I might be in the wrong mood and go, "What is this?" and throw it away or something. I don't want to make ruin someone's day. So,
Fair.
out of ignorance, I guess leave it on the tree.
I'd say right for the picking.
Mhm.
Sounds intriguing.
yeah,
Leave it on the tree only because, yeah, I'm just not gonna do it.
that's fair.
Yeah, nah. I'll just leave it there, on the tree. All right, last one for me. Going back to food because I saw it and now I kind of. Well, anyway, right for the picking and leave it on the tree. Tater tots.
If you asked me probably about 20 years ago, I would say leave it on the tree because
Okay.
I strongly dislike tater tots. But if they're crispy and they are, cooked well and crispy, right for the picking.
Absolutely right for the picking.
Yeah.
Yeah, love them.
I think they're my favorite form of potato.
Okay.
So right for the picking.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love potatoes most ways, but tater tots. If you get a soggy tater tot, it's just like a soggy French fry. Like a French fry is good, but if it's not prepared and it's got that weird, and again, if it's like that weird uncooked frozen taste, well, what are we talking about here? But just like a properly cooked tater tot, yeah, it's nice. Big fan.
Okay. Done with the tater tots. Okay. Right for the picking or leave it on the tree. Adaptive cruise control.
Absolutely right for the picking. I can't live without it.
Really? Okay.
Awesome. It's like one of the greatest inventions in a car besides the backup camera. I love it.
Yeah. I'll say leave it on the tree because I don't need it.
Okay.
So you just naturally follow at a safe length.
I try to.
How about you?
Oh, it's massively right for the picking for me. So the first time I experienced it was in a rental car, and we were on a road trip. And like I was getting ready to, I didn't understand it, so I was getting ready to do the thing where you turn your cruise control off, and then it just slowed down. And then like as traffic slowed down, the car slowed down. It's like, so I could just leave it on and not do anything except for drive. I was like, oh yeah, this is 100%. And you can like adjust
He gets it.
your
The car
comfortable
length,
length.
yeah.
No, it's like being on a highway and like turning on your cruise control and then people driving the way they're comfortable driving. I'll just say that. And then you have to turn it off, and you get in, and you're like comfortable for like a mile. And you have to keep switching it on and on. Like that is, and then you're like, all right, I'm done with cruise control. And then like 30 miles later, you're like, all right, it's clear. You put it back on, and then it happens again. Yeah, and it'll drive me crazy. But with adaptive cruise control, you don't have to do that.
No.
It's nice.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of long. When we lived in Colorado, we would drive to Michigan to her parents.
Sure.
And I-80 is, I-80. And well, when we go back to Nebraska and Colorado, it's I-70, which is even more.
It's I-70.
And we would have wrecked so many times had I not. It's just, adaptive cruise is so wonderful. It's a necessity on the vehicle. It's very sad when we drive in a snowstorm and it says, cannot use. It alerts you. You can't use it. Like, no. I almost want to pull over and wipe it off and then put it back and then get going.
I experienced that. Is that because the sensor is?
Sensory issue.
It's covered in ice.
Yeah.
And it's I think, if I remember right, it's the sensor that's behind your mirror, like your driver's mirror.
It could be.
It's that. If you look on a car that has them, it's that box that's right there. That's what it uses. And so when you get ice up there or some sort of blockage, there's some cars may have sensors around the bumper.
Interesting.
But those are sensors for like parking. But the one behind the mirror, I think, is what it uses, because there's a laser and all this. And the only reason I know this is because when we bought our first one, the salesman made a really big deal about that. Our car has it, and so if you ever get your window replaced, and we're talking Denver, you basically replace your window every year in Denver, your front windshield, because you catch rocks all the time. They don't put salt down, they put gravel or some sort of rock to break up the snow. They're very proud of that. You don't get any rust on vehicles, but you get lots of broken windows. And so a window's $400 to replace it, on the low end, but with an adaptive sensor on there, it's like $800, because they got to recalibrate the whole silly thing. It's I love it, but so that's one reason why I use it, to sit way back and don't catch any rocks.
Right.
All right.
So yeah.
It's right for the picking, but I wish I could turn it off.
Oh, you can. You don't. It doesn't have to be on.
I don't think mine can.
Let me ask you a question. Have you read your user's manual?
No. Have you read yours?
No, but I don't want to turn it off. I've only had my card. I had to replace my card recently, so I've only had a couple months. See, I'd have to see, but now you got me interested because I ended up getting a Subaru, and it's called Eyesight, so it's not just adaptive cruise control. And so if I'm sitting at a light and you're not paying attention, it's very sensitive. Sometimes a little too sensitive. I'm like, chill. And the car in front of you pulls off, it alerts you that the car is not there anymore. So it's even when the cruise control is not on. Yeah, there's a lot of things that it alerts for that I appreciate. Yeah, and that or somebody's in front of you, brake suddenly, it gives you a different type of number. It's cool. Yeah.
Mine's got the lane assist. It'll basically steer for you, but it does know when you take your hands off the wheel. It'll yell at you, but it's kind of wild. Yeah. What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive. Yeah, exactly. Well, Craig and Angela, thank you for joining us. But before we sign off, I'd like to hear from both of you, if you don't mind. If you had to give one piece of advice for anybody considering ministry, or for a wife of somebody considering ministry, or spouse of somebody considering ministry, we do have a guest coming up who's a deaconess student and her husband's not a church worker. I'm very interested for that conversation, but spoiler alert, that's coming up in the pipeline soon. What would that one piece of advice be?
Yeah, I'd say just be open to exploring and stepping out in faith, and be listening for the Holy Spirit to say. I mean, I feel like the Holy Spirit will give you those. Okay, nope, this isn't the right thing, but just be open and listen, and really just be in prayer, and ask your community of family, friends, just be bathing you in prayer, and get their input too. I mean, sure. It was great to have the input of our family and our friends as we were making this decision. So.
Yeah, that's good. I would say, I think talking to a pastor was definitely one of the good things that we did. And it wasn't, we didn't talk to a pastor that we knew really, really, really well. We talked to someone who knew us, but had no skin in the game, whether, different district, state, however you want to look at it. So I felt as though they knew enough of me, they knew who I am, to at least get a sense of, on the surface, I would, I wasn't being crazy or something, asking. So that, I think, asking a pastor, see what they say, asking others, definitely talking with your spouse. I'm pretty sure early on when we were dating, she said, I'm not a pastor's wife or something, like never going to be one. And so I blame her partially for this. But I think at one point I said I would never be a pastor. So it's a long story behind that too. But it's the idea that talking to people and making sure, do I sound crazy? And I think one of the episodes, I have no idea which one it was, but your guest talked about the idea that what else would I do? What could I possibly do? And once this decision was made and I left that job and it was actually probably on the way out, I honestly don't know what I would do. I mean, like if I wasn't going to be going to a pastoral call, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I really don't have a plan B, and I think that's good because I'm all in and I'm going to get the most out of this, and I'm okay with that. I'm out. It's and having that peace. I guess that's what I'm describing is the peace about this. And I have a little anxiety overall as a person.
Sure.
But and everyone reminds me that this is going to be a stressful job. But the way I answer that is I am looking forward to this stress because I'm tackling problems that matter. That are important. It's relational. It's about God and your salvation and eternal life. These are the most important things.
Right.
And whether I launch a rocket next year is not as important. And so that, I think to me, when you get to, especially as a second career person, you start looking at. I mean, we were in retirement conversations with our financial planner. I'm looking downhill on retirement at this point, and when you realize that this is more important than all that other stuff that corporate America is trying to tell you to do. And what's awesome, I think, what I'm excited about is I've kept in touch with all my friends and coworkers and things like that. They all know I'm going to become a pastor someday. And what was really encouraging, and this is kind of for the second career guys and ladies who go to the deaconess world, say something at work to people. It's taboo to talk about it in the office.
Sure. But
as soon as, I told my manager I was leaving, and she was very upset about it, which was good, I guess, for my ego. But she wanted to know why, and I know she was thinking like competition, something bad happened, what? And I'm going to be a pastor. And that's kind of, you all actually shaped me. I left that other job knowing that I was going to become a pastor, but I needed to come here because this role was preparing me to become a pastor, and I needed that affirmation. I needed to kind of get in that mindset, and it was so they all helped me, and I thank them all for this part of the journey. And so I started, so she knew, and some of my closer coworkers did, and some of them came out and said, hey, I'm a Lutheran too. I'm so excited. Maybe you'll be my pastor someday, or hey, I want to be at your first service where you're preaching, So, and I told her, and it was that initially there were so many people, and when you're in that environment for so long, you're thinking, I'm the only Christian here, and it's a little depressing. But then you realize, there's a lot of folks there, and so for me to go back, I'm looking forward to seeing them this summer when we go back to visit, and we're going to talk about this stuff, and I hope whatever spiritual faith they have kind of gets renewed and built, and that's kind of my hope and I get all excited about. So yeah, I guess I hope that answers your question there, but I think that's lots of prayer, obviously, lots and lots of prayer.
Sure.
Stop praying.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it's not it's not easy. I mean, I think one of the things we've noticed too is the world does not want more pastors.
Right.
And we were met with a lot of obstacles. As soon as we were, the obstacles hit at very terrible times. And not that we would want to step away, but it, you know, it would challenge a person, and they're not going to go away. And so just keep that in mind. You know, keep your eye on the prize, and the problems are going to come. And, you know, but you're in prayer, you have the support of everyone around you, it makes it a lot easier.
That's great. Well, again, thank you both for coming on and being guests today. It's been an absolute joy. And if you're listening, thanks for tuning in. But especially if you're listening, because you're kind of in that discernment process of maybe this might be right for you, becoming a pastor, teacher, deaconess, DCE. Don't think. Fill out a request for information so we can reach out and have a conversation with you. The conversation's free, obligation free, but we'd love to hear from you anyway, even if after the conversation, although I doubt it, you would decide that this isn't right for you. We'd still like to hear from our brothers and sisters in Christ from around the church. But if you know that being a church worker isn't for you, but you've always looked across the pew at somebody and thought to yourself they would be a good church worker, don't think, and make sure you tell them, because you could be that person that gives them that initial encouragement to reach out to us and begin that process. And then maybe they'll be a guest on Under the Fig Tree, and they'll mention you in their episode. But nonetheless, everyone, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time under the Fig Tree. Take care.